Hello, this is my presentation on landfill sustainability in Gran Buenos Aires. We'll just get right into it. So this project is focused on developing a geodesign solution for sustainability in the Gran Buenos Aires region, which there's a map of right here. This map shows both purchasing power per capita and marginal settlements and gated communities, just so the bounds of it are clear and you can reference that as you keep going. In order to pursue sustainability, we need to first define it. And I define sustainability as preventing damage to and protecting ecosystems and environmental resources in the pursuit of an equitable distribution of wealth. This means that we need to address the key ecological challenges that this region faces, while still ensuring that a quality standard of living can be achieved by all. And any sustainable solution must address the key issues which face Buenos Aires, which are poverty, land dispossession, and other issues which are both social in nature as well as environmental. In the future, Buenos Aires needs to formalize and improve its municipal trash collection issues, address its lack of urban green space, and address growing economic and social inequality throughout the region. And while any single project, whether proposed here or elsewhere, can't hope to solve all these issues, it needs to analyze its impact on each of these issues, because these are the issues which are most important to the region. So for this project, and specifically, we're going to be narrowing in on a subset of the Gran Buenos Aires region. We're going to be focusing on the San Miguel, Tigre, 3 de Febrero, General San Martín, and San Isidro partidos in the province of Buenos Aires. These partidos have a long history of working in the waste management industry and being a site of waste management activities. They've been called La República Soruja by Suarez in 2013. This area has several key features which really drive sustainability concerns. First, the landfill in the area provides significant economic opportunity, but a significant polluting and damaging presence in the area. You'll note from the map here that you'll see the Rio Reconquista, which flows through the region, and actually flows between the landfill and inhabited areas in the southeast of the region, which magnifies the impacts of the landfill. It also has many dense and somewhat fragmented vías miserias, which are slums and other informal settlements. These settlements provide a large part of the workforce, which is employed in circulating solid waste throughout the city, otherwise known as cirujas. These informally employed trash collectors who gather waste throughout Gran Buenos Aires and sell it to the waste management company SAAMSE, which works as a cooperative between both the Ciudad de Buenos Aires and Buenos Aires province. These people who work in this industry account for the vast majority of all solid waste collection in the urban agglomeration. Besides the landfill, the vías miserias themselves are a major challenge to sustainability throughout Gran Buenos Aires, and particularly in this region. Despite often looking very formal, they are very similar to other slums found in other South American cities. Residents of vías miserias don't have a legal right to live or occupy the land on which they live and lack basic utilities and services. And while the city of Buenos Aires has taken many steps to formalize and provide services to residents of vías miserias, with Vía 31 being a key example of this, these efforts have been lacking in Buenos Aires province, which is where the study area is located, particularly because of a disjoint in the governments and a lack of cooperation between the governments in these areas. And it's led the areas in the suburban partidos of the province of Buenos Aires to really see the biggest harms from being informal developments. Again, the history of this region with the waste management industry runs deep. Since 1982, local residents have been employed in the waste collection and processing industry, and participation in this industry has led to and facilitated the cycle of the creation of these vías miserias, housing residents displaced both from Buenos Aires by poverty and ecological disaster, and also a large immigrant population seeking economic opportunity in the region. And while since 2012, many cirujas have been fighting for official recognition as workers and even employees of SAAMSE, they have not seen these gains, and their situation continues to remain precarious, and many people are still employed informally in circulating waste throughout the city. Solid waste has been a key challenge for the Gran Buenos Aires region, and waste collection has simply remained an informal industry, even though there have been some efforts like the formation of SAAMSE to address these issues. Waste management continues to be done primarily by informal means. And despite experts identifying challenges in the waste management industry, little has been done to actually promote a solution. Let's dig deep into exactly how the waste management industry works in the study area, because it's really key to developing new solutions to addressing the issue in the study area. So let's consider, this map shows just how much has been changed over time through the creation of the Sayamse landfill. It shows how it's grown since February of 2004. And it also shows its impact on the neighboring areas. It shows these satellite waste collection facilities, and you can see the informal settlements gathered around it, mixed in with some formal settlements. Looking at this landfill, it's easy to see how it can be damaging to the region as both this local area and the region as a whole. Let's consider a single piece of waste traveling through the waste management system of Gran Buenos Aires as it travels to this landfill in order to see this happen. This waste will be disposed somewhere throughout the region and picked up by a ciruja as part of their trash collection route. It'll be taken to one of these satellite facilities, which are informally run areas of processing this waste, and sorted for recyclable materials. Because plastic film isn't particularly recyclable, it'll be handed over to Sayamse, who will dispose of it in the landfill. Over time, this waste will will disintegrate and leach chemicals and particulates into the land, air, and the Rio Reconquista. The Rio Reconquista is particularly notable because it drains out to the Rio Luján and eventually to the Rio de la Plata, which is the main river estuary forming the borders of northeastern Buenos Aires. This landfill has a major impact on water pollution in the region, and also has a major impact on damage to open space, as we can see from this map, which shows just how much of this open space it is occupied, especially when you combine it with the satellite sites, which aren't officially associated with the Sayamse facility. Because this facility is the largest landfill and trash processing facility in the entire country of Argentina, this Sayamse and associated waste management facilities pose a major challenge for sustainability in the region. And despite being such a concentrated area, it's the primary contact point for waste disposal in the entire region. As a result, the continued urbanization and rise in living standards in Gran Buenos Aires, which has shown few signs of slowing since the 1990s and has only been accelerated by car-dependent, sprawling, gated communities, has driven even greater demand for consumption and waste disposal than has been previously seen. This issue is a pressing one and needs to be addressed soon to avoid even further harms to the already endangered residents of this region. I'm going to propose several alternatives and how they can be incorporated using geodesign pathways in order to look at how we could change this region for the better. Alternative one entails moving several of the satellite facilities which exist as the main workplace of the cirujas, which can be found on the southeast side of the Rio Reconquista, to be contiguous with the main body of the Sayamse landfill on the northwest side of the river. After relocation, the now unused land could be used for a different purpose. For example, to expand the Parque San Martin, which currently borders the landfill, or to provide new housing opportunities. These opportunities to reclaim the land on the southeast side of the Rio Reconquista are key for several reasons. First, this area is located close to where many people live and work, and it could serve as a key gathering space and key focal point of the community, whereas now it's currently a push factor away from the community. Addressing the problem of urban green space and lack of housing is one of the some of the key challenges facing Gran Buenos Aires, and especially addressing the issue of public green space, which I'm going to focus on today. Public green space has been identified as a key challenge in Buenos Aires, and Buenos Aires lags well behind other cities of similar income and status in having public green space. Addressing these issues is especially pressing in low-income communities, where the health and wellness impacts of having access to public green space have already been well documented. Expanding and creating public green space, especially along the banks of the Rio Reconquista, would be key, both to create a community gathering space and to address the ecological role of the Rio Reconquista, especially because it's a key ecological corridor in the Rio de la Plata watershed, and such a park could be adapted not only to provide public green space, but also to provide natural flood control to the region, which is currently provided by a channelized arroyo. There are several downsides to this plan. It could cause new land clearance for landfill expansion on the northwest side of the Rio Reconquista, which while being offset by the new beneficial uses of the currently informally used land for trash disposal, it would still be a trade-off that would need to be weighed and need to be discussed with local residents, and it would need to be measured furthermore, it could hinder some access to the economic opportunity which the waste processing facilities provide, especially because many of these facilities, because them being located close to where people live, is important in an area which lacks transportation and other economic opportunity. Alternative 2 is to expand trial formal waste processing facilities, dotting the informal satellite facilities around the Say landfill. This has several key potential outcomes. First, it could be used to these facilities could reduce the footprint of the landfill, enabling the land to be used for other purposes, whether that just simply be open space, housing, public green space, or etc. And it would improve the livelihoods of workers in the area. It would help to formalize the crucial process of gathering waste and make it less polluting and damaging to the environment. SAMHSA would need to talk to local residents about what kind of formal waste processing facilities they would pursue, whether those be waste to energy facilities, simple recycling facilities, etc. And this would help in promoting diversion of waste, allowing the landfill to be reclaimed and remediated in the future. However, there are several downsides to this alternative. Again, first, this is a much more long-term plan. Little would change in the short term, as the landfill would still be present, and it could take a long time to see the changes that such a solution could be pursued, especially due to the cost. Second, it does little to change the pollution situation in the surrounding communities, because there will still be waste processing facilities near them. Granted, that it will probably be less polluting than the current landfill exists. And third, it could limit or shift some of the opportunities to work in the industry, leaving some of the lowest income residents of this area without access to a livelihood. Whatever solution is pursued, the province of Buenos Aires really needs to work on an extensive formalization program for the surrounding Vías Miserias. I suggest modeling these programs off of those described by Calatrava, in which the city identifies plots on which residents live, where they don't have access to, where they don't own or possess title to or the license to occupy the land on which they live, and does this through a complex set of community surveys and statistical models in order to ensure that the correct people who need to be addressed are targeted. And while it can be difficult to untangle the complex web of competing land and ownership claims, mediation and reconciliation through community engagement is necessary to ensure that that this process is done in both an equitable manner, and to ensure that that residents are no longer occupied precarious situations. Second, the provincial, profito level, and municipal governments need to coordinate to provision utilities and other services in the Vías Miserias. Shown to the right is a map which shows the locations of the Vías Miserias. It shows locations of hotspots of amenities, and it shows purchasing power per capita in each of these blocks. And what this shows is that while amenity for the study area, and while it shows that amenities are clustered outside of the Vías Miserias, and residents in the Vías Miserias often lack access to crucial amenities, not to mention crucial utilities such as power and water. Providing regular services to these areas is crucial. And the different levels of government in this area can't just shake their heads and ignore the problem. They need to instead form cooperative agencies like SAAMSE in order to address these issues and reform governance in this area. For the proposed plans, there's two primary metrics for evaluating them. First is overall land cover change. This can happen in both positive and negative directions. Land cover change will be considered positively affected if land devoted to landfill decreases or remains the same, or if land devoted to open or urban green space increases. Land cover change will be considered negatively effective if land devoted to landfill increases. The second is the change in size of nearby Vías Miserias. This will be measured by determining the percentage of dwellings occupied by someone who is neither the landowner nor a legal tenant. Secondary metrics should also be measured, including amenity density in and around Vías Miserias, and the percentage of dwellings with utility access to ensure that formalization doesn't simply occur on paper. Other secondary metrics should be measured to qualify and analyze the successes of the project. These include water pollution in the Rio Reconquista and purchasing power per capita in nearby areas. These metrics should be incorporated so that secondary effects and broader definitions of sustainability can be considered when evaluating the project. Finally, we move on to stakeholder engagement and ensuring that and measuring how to get input on these alternatives, which is in any project which affects the design of a community is a crucial step to ensure that that solutions which are truly valuable to the local residents are implemented. This is especially true in areas so dense with Vías Miserias, which are often dominated by local rather than institutional knowledge, and which often rely on residents in order to truly ascertain the situation in the region and to understand what might be done to create a real solution rather than a band-aid or something which might even make the problem worse. Following the model established by Montero et al., in-person design charrettes should be held to encourage local residents in the local geodesign process. Input from community members is vital to ensure that this project is equitable and doesn't damage the local community. Ideally, such community meetings should involve using GIS programs on a desktop computer. They should use data gathered both by experts and local residents to visualize the extent of the problem and to visualize potential solutions and their effects. Local knowledge and insight is going to be key in this issue again, and can be used to develop a process whereby local input considers all possible solutions and can agree on it by consensus, using knowledge that they might have separate from those of the researchers or other experts in the area. Beyond simply engaging the local community, this project will need to engage other other governmental agencies in order to be successful. Obviously, it will need to involve the province of Buenos Aires, but it will also need to engage the SAAMSE agency, partido and municipal governments in the region in order to ensure that responsibility is taken by all parties, and that solutions can cross the complex web of boundaries which is found in the Gran Buenos Aires region. Ultimately, successful reform of informal workplace, labor, and residential practices is key to transforming the lives of those who live around the SAAMSE landfill in Gran Buenos Aires. The solutions and processes proposed in this document promote sustainable ecological solutions in the area to limit the impacts of human activity both nearby and throughout the Gran Buenos Aires region. Bringing stakeholders together and evaluating various design proposals, both detailed in this document and as described and proposed by local residents, is key to affecting change in this area and making the area around the SAAMSE landfill both a better place to live and a place which supports environmental and ecological objectives. Thank you.